We're the Bianchi Law Group, a team of former prosecutors and certified criminal trial attorneys.
But here's the thing. He put himself in a box when he said...
Relied on by CNN, Fox News, MSNBC, Law and Crime, and news leaders across the country for our criminal defense expertise.
In a search warrant, you have to have probable cause that a crime's been committed and there's evidence in a particular place.
When you need a law firm with courage, compassion, and the commitment to fight for you, call the Bianchi Law Group today.
All right, so Bob, law partner, former Morris County prosecutor. I was lucky as being an assistant prosecutor in the Morris County Prosecutor's Office when you're the Morris County Prosecutor. And today, June 22nd, 2022, is the 15-year anniversary of you being sworn in as the Morris County Prosecutor.
Yes.
And the picture is fitting for the day, right? We have it here on the screen on the Vibe board. You being sworn in by the late Judge Falcone and your father, Angelo Bianchi, Buddy Bianchi, being right there holding the Bible. And I know how important of a day that is, right? And I just want to, before I ask you a question, I want to quote Steve Jobs, who said, "You can't connect the dots looking forward." Jobs said that you can only connect them looking backwards. So you have to trust that the dots will somehow connect in your future. You have to trust in something, your gut, destiny, life, karma, whatever. And I know that there are many dots that contribute to this photograph right here.
Yeah.
Right? And I want to ask you about the first dot. I think that's relevant to the conversation. And that is your 5-year-old birthday. Looking back, why is that a memorable day for you?
It's is as vivid in my memory as seeing you right now and in 2 minutes from now remembering you. It's my 5th birthday, and my father was the head of homicide in the Essex County Prosecutor's Office, and he borrowed the prosecutor's car, Brendan Byrne, his idol. And he did it because he wanted to give me like a little, he's going to give me a ride in the car and put the siren on and the lights. And we went to get, he said, "What do you want to get?" And I said, "A Mountain Dew." It's such an odd thing, right? The simplicity of a child. And I asked him if he would put the siren on as we were on the way to get the Mountain Dew, and I loved it. And they had a phone at the time, Dave. I don't even know how this technology worked, but there was literally a phone. Like you pick it up like the old phones, and it went through some dispatch system. And I spoke to my mother. And I'm like, "I'm on the phone, Mom." And anyway, hung up after she said, "That's great." And I asked my father, I said, "How can I get a car like this when I get older?" And true as to this day, we say it in the family all the time, he said, "Someday you're not going to have to borrow this car like I had to. You will be the county prosecutor. This will be your car."
Wow.
And that's really, honestly, I can say from that point forward in my life, my father, who later became a defense attorney, always was putting me in reading trial transcripts and, from a very young age, and kind of cultivated me. There was no being this, that, or the other when I was a kid. It was to be a lawyer and in particular to get the prosecutor's job.
Sure. I think that's an important part of the story is that Angelo Bianchi, Buddy Bianchi, was the first homicide prosecutor, right, in Essex County.
Yep.
And for everybody that knows Angelo, I mean, one of the best trial attorneys that have ever stepped foot in the New Jersey courts. He was a prosecutor, the assistant prosecutor in Essex, and then also was in the head of banking under Byrne. And what a tremendous mentor that I know him to be for you. And it starts at age 5, but is that where the desire to become the prosecutor starts? And I'm sure it doesn't end. How do you move forward from there with this desire to be the county prosecutor?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't something that was always told, but you plant that in a 5-year-old's mind, and that starts it. And, when I progressed through college and went to law school, my father was always like, if you are interested in that prosecutor's job, here's the path you have to take. And I don't know if it's still the path that you have to take, but the path that he set out for me was be the best trial lawyer you could be. Go to a prosecutor's office, do a good job, be a solid trial lawyer. But also, after that experience, he told me, get out of the prosecutor's office, become a defense lawyer, know that end of the spectrum. So this way you'll have great, experience on both sides of the aisle, and then do some civil rights police practices work. So you have kind of like the three trick play there. everywhere.
Yeah.
And so I came into looking for the position at that point in time. And, I was in Essex County at the time. So the likelihood of me politically getting appointed as the county prosecutor was virtually zero. And literally, Dave, this is a story that everybody was fascinated. Like, how did you do it? And because there's only 21 county prosecutors, and it's very, very hard to get. A lot of people want the job. And honestly, it's kind of like what we did on the radio show today with one of our guests. It was when I let go of the dream. I felt that I was very qualified, and I felt politically I would not be seen because of my background and who I was. I wasn't the right demographic that they were looking for. And no matter how much I tried to demonstrate throughout the state that here are my credentials, whatever, I was very disappointed that I was seeing appointments being made by the governor's office that didn't have the same caliber of quality. So I realized that, look, I did my best, and that's what we talked about on the show today.
Yeah.
And it's not for me. And it gave me the liberty to start looking for homes anywhere I wanted in the state. And I went to Morris County, and that was just a chance thing that happened with regard to how I wound up in Morris County. And the minute we looked at the house, the first house we looked at, after looking for 2 years, we're like, that's the one we want. And I remember driving up 80, talking to my father on the phone, saying, I just signed the paperwork for a house in Morris County. He said, you're dead politically. You know that, right? You're going into I'm a Democrat, you're going into a Republican, bastion, and that's it for you. And so, I had no intention. That was my severing of the dream when I moved to Morris County, ironically.
Sure. Look, your experience and getting back to those dots, it made you the best prosecutor you could be. You started out Hudson County as an assistant prosecutor, and then left Hudson County, and you were Bianchi and Bianchi with your father, right? And it wasn't easy to get that appointment. And for those that don't know this, there are 21 counties in the state of New Jersey. Each county has a head county prosecutor that's appointed by the governor. It's an appointment. There are some states out there that are elected officials, but here in New Jersey, you have to be appointed. So you have to have the experience, right? Actually, with an asterisk. Hopefully, those are the best that have the experience, but more so, you need to have the relationships because of the appointment. And you were appointed by Governor Corzine to be the Morris County prosecutor. But was that the first time that there was a discussion of Bob Bianchi being a county prosecutor when Governor Corzine appointed you?
What happened was, actually, my mom was dying at the time, and we were at the hospital, 24/7, my family. And Governor Corzine had gotten elected and was in office, and I got a call to apply for the Attorney General's job. Which I told my father, I said, I just got a call from the governor. So we didn't have a relationship really with, I met the governor. He was a senator at the time. Didn't have like this massive relationship or anything like that. So I found it to be odd. And my father found it to be odd too. But when the governor asks you to come down and interview, you go down and you interview.
Sure.
And ultimately that did not come to pass. But, he said, somewhere down the road, I'd like you in my administration. And that was it. And I had no idea that the county prosecutor of Morris County term was coming to an end at around 2005 or 6, in that time period.
Sure.
And it was at that time that we said, wow, wait a minute, there's an opening here. The governor's in office. I got vetted by the Attorney General's job. So maybe we should make an application or try to reach out to see whether or not we can get into the prosecutor's job. But it still was like a pipe dream. I'd only just recently moved up here. There were many qualified people for the job. And certainly one thing I loved about my competition that I had for that job is that every single one of them was extremely experienced.
Yeah.
I went against a really good crew of people.
Sure.
And at that point, it became kind of like a political thing. Who are they going to pick? To this day, I couldn't even tell you why we got picked, but we did. I got the call, like I said before, and it called my father. Well, actually called my friends, but asked my father. The call to my father was, can you come to the house? I got to talk to you about something. He's like, what do you got to talk to me about? I said, Dad, do me a favor. Just come to the house. And somewhere in my house right now, I had a video camera set up that I had rolling. And I said, I got something to talk to you about this prosecutor thing. And he's tense because it was tense for months.
Sure.
For me, it was tense for decades, And he's like, what? I said, I just got a call by the governor's council. They made their decision, something to this effect. And he's like, and? I said, I'm going to be the next Morris County prosecutor. I don't think I've ever seen my father so elated, so like overwhelmed with emotion. And I have to point out that not only was my father my mentor, my idol, the person that taught me, I mean, driving everywhere we went, talking about trials, I mean, it's imbued in me, my DNA. But I was leaving my father. That meant by definition that I was leaving him, and he wanted his son there and his, in those years or what have you. So he sacrificed, all of that and was so happy about the move. So it was just a really, I could see it right now, and I got to find that video one day because it was really intense.
Yeah. So you do get picked. You get nominated by the Governor Corzine. And obviously you had that desire, right? It starts at age 5, and I'm sure you wanted to be throughout. I mean, how'd that feel when you got that call and you've been told that you've been appointed to be the Morris County Prosecutor? What goes through your mind and heart? So
I got called by the Governor's Council, and I was on Route 10. I'll never forget it. And I was in disbelief because it had seemed at that point in time that I was out. There's this road you go down, trust me, and I've listened to so many people have gotten the prize. You're in, you're out, you're up, you're down, there's a new name, and it was just really dark. And I got the call, and it said that we've chosen to select you as the prosecutor. I was in complete disbelief. I called my father, obviously, and he was excited, and a couple of friends. But very quickly, it became evident that in order to get the job for real, it's not just a nomination. You have to get approval by the New Jersey Senate.
Right.
And, politics being the way it is, and I have a very good relationship with the senator from Morris County, but he was blocking me.
Yeah.
In other words, which meant that the governor says yes, but I wasn't able to get through the second part of that, and that was with the senator in Morris County. So that was really difficult for me because I had a law practice where a lot of clients are like, oh, you're leaving, and new clients weren't coming in, and I wasn't getting referrals from people because they thought I was going to be the prosecutor. But I'm like, no, wait, I'm in this legal limbo here, this legal hell, where I may get it, but I may not get it. And many a man and woman have gone through this, becoming judges and prosecutors in this state.
Sure. And so you were confirmed by the Senate?
Well, yeah, no, eventually, and I give the senator a lot of credit. Senator Bucco, and his son are his good friends, and we had a very good relationship. And I understood the reasons why he was doing it. What I really appreciated about it was I asked him, Senator, could you at least leave the door open? I remember having this conversation with him at a diner, and he said, I'll leave it a little bit open. I said, just if you give me a crack, and he kind of laughed. He was a good guy. He has his political things. And then eventually 2 months later, he consented to the nomination, and then I wound up getting the full approval of the Senate. They tell you, Dave, you don't have to go down when the Senate is voting. It's a kind of pro forma thing. Once the Judiciary Committee has you out of committee, you're going to get. I'm like, no. Not after all this from 5 years. I'm going to be down there. And Senator Bucco actually introduced me as his Morris County prosecutor, Bob Bianchi. It was a very touching moment.
What a story! Yeah. That term is a 5-year term, and you, the head cop in Morris County, as the Morris County prosecutor, I was lucky enough to be an assistant. And really, from my experience, I started off as a defense attorney as well. I come into the Morris County prosecutor's office, and I have the opportunity to learn from Bob. And those experiences that Bob brought to that position really made the office what it was. Just having that guidance and having the real leader in the spot with criminal trial experience. Yeah. So in that position, Bob, what was it like? I mean, looking back now, what is that term like, being the top cop in the county?
Yeah, so, they don't give you a manual. It's kind of like a baby. There's nothing really to train you on it. You can read things about it, but you have to experience it. I was very confident in my skill set, that I had those skills, and I knew we would figure it out. It's about getting the right team. But you got to remember, you're going into a place where everybody's been there for 10, 15, 20 years, and you're coming in as the new guy who'll be out in 5 or 10, 5 years in Morris County typically. And your term is up, and then a new guy comes in. So they're used to kind of navigating the transition. It was a great, right from the beginning, I loved it. I mean, that from the day I had it to the day I left, I was working 16 plus hour jobs. There was such an opportunity to be able to get out into the community, doing community affairs related things, which, bullying stuff and all the contacts and connections we made, which was not fashionable back in 2007. And now people are like, this is the thing to do. I'm like, dude, we were doing that. We were doing police practices reform based on my civil rights experience. The Attorney General had me help rewrite the attorney. We worked internal affairs, you know this, Dave, with the police, and we worked very well with them. I was in charge of all the police agencies, 39 of them, and they took it when they realized that we weren't doing this to hurt them, but to make sure that they did things correctly, and they did things so that they wouldn't become, God forbid, defendants in cases. They bought onto it, and so there is a little bit that I all love. The trial stuff, I loved. I was always in the courtroom to the chagrin, maybe of some of the assistant prosecutors, and trying that case. When I tried the case with you, that murder case, and one of the only ones to try one in decades, I guess it's been. It was for a reason that I didn't want to be in the cheap seats telling people, what to do all the time. That I want to show them that I was willing to get up and go into that courtroom with everyone burning, if you will, like a laser beam, everything I was doing, with the risk of losing, which for the head of the agency was a lot different than maybe everybody else. Politically, my team didn't want me to do it, but it was like we talk about on our radio show, Nothing But the Truth. I refused to live my life looking back on my deathbed saying I didn't try that case and that I didn't get in the courtroom, try that murder case. I would never have forgiven myself for that. And what an experience we walked away from, facing and confronting the fear that came along with that.
Without a doubt. I remember getting the call when Father Hines was killed. Walking into Judge Manahan's for warrants and getting affidavits and stuff, and we were part of that together. I remember the press conference in the parking lot of the church and the rectory. And it's one thing to be a part of an investigation. It's a whole nother arena to walk into a courtroom and try that case.
Right.
Especially as a county prosecutor. It's unheard of.
Right. It
really is. There's risk involved, political risk, the public perception. It was national news at the time as well. So what went into that decision? And I know that you look back and it would have been a regret not to, but at the time, what goes through the head prosecutor's mind to say, I'm going to walk into court and try a case?
I knew when I went in there that was something I wanted to do. I wanted it to be the right case. I thought there were some interesting legal issues that I anticipated would be brought up during the trial that in fact were, that we would have to navigate. I won't lie to you, the faith-based piece to it meant something to me as a devout Catholic.
Sure.
And thirdly, I wanted to make sure that my staff knew that I'm not going to just talk the talk, I'm going to walk the walk. I think it's incredibly important that as the county prosecutor, that I be out at the crime scenes, that I'd be giving my suggestions. Me and you on more than that case have been involved in investigations where we were listening to statements being taken and we were guiding the detectives in terms of certain things that we needed because they were defenses, because cops are cops and they do a very good job, but they don't know what's going on necessarily in the courtroom. And that's where working together as lawyers and cops, you have a force multiplier. That's in my wheelbase. So I was able to lead by example. And that was very important to me to try that case.
No, I know. And I know a lot of the chiefs appreciated that as well. The prosecutor being out at the scenes, because that's a tough dynamic.
Yeah.
When the prosecutor's office, when there's a death or a major crimes investigation or sex crimes investigation or whatever the squad is that responds out as county prosecutors, you're dealing with local detectives and the local squad and chiefs. And I know all of the chiefs that I've spoken to have really appreciated the leadership of you and your experience going to the scenes and things like that. How was that actually, going to the scenes and working with law enforcement?
I'm really glad you brought that up, because sometimes you got to make sure people play well in the sandbox, they say, and there can be departmental arguments and disagreements that occur. This is another thing that it's amazing to me when we talk about criminal justice reform. It just maddens me. I'm like, people have done it. Again, if it's experienced people that have this background of prosecution, defense, police practices work, there are people that really know how to balance these interests that society seems to be so difficult, and politicians find it so difficult to be able to strike. But the bottom line is, I went the first 2 weeks, 3 weeks of my administration by myself, which they found very odd, the chiefs, and drove to every single police agency in Morris County, 39 of them, and met with them, the chief, and their staff. And the reason was our office had a very bad relationship with the local police departments, and I knew I needed to build that relationship. Now, you have to understand the dynamic going on here. I'm a Democrat. I'm a defense attorney at the time in Morris County, and there was a police practices expert that used to sue police departments for, violations of malicious prosecution, false arrest, etc. So they probably weren't all too comfortable with who I was with my background. But when they realized that I was there to help them make law enforcement better, at least by my estimation, and explain to them on an individual department by department basis. I remember almost passing out one time because I was seeing so many departments in a given day. I was literally exhausted, but it was great. They let it all out, everything they thought about the office. I gave them the vision, and then I had to walk the walk. When we were at the crime scenes, I needed to be there, not as an overseer, but as a colleague. And that was the problem, I think, with the previous administration, respectfully, was that it was more like, you'll do as I order you to. Now, ultimately, they know they got to do what we tell them to do, but there's a way of saying. And I think there was also a mutual respect that went back and forth, that they respected what it was I was trying to do, and they knew that I had really done it in the real world.
Yeah, and for those that don't know, I mean, when major crimes, which was typically the cases that we would assist with, goes out, I mean, it's lengthy investigations. It could be days, it could be weeks, right? I mean, we got to find the truth. With investigations and warrants, and I mean,
while you have the media, that was the part. I got to be honest with you. That was the piece that if I said there was something to be prepared for, it would have been the media. And while 95% of the media was very good, fair, and accurate in the reporting, I did have scenarios where they were not. And I would take that personally because I knew it was done not because of the truth. It was done to sensationalize and attack the agency. And it bothered me because I knew our people, our staff like you and so many others worked so many hours beyond what they had to. And I looked at it like as a commitment to me. Taking files home at night and stuff that they never did before, going to crimes. I changed things up. I made people work really hard. And so to see the agency get I had that thing where Mr. Bianchi, do your job. I had it framed in my office, and people were like, why would you do that? It was a hit article on me. Yep. It was completely factually false. I proved it was false before it was printed, but they were going to print it anyway. But I put it up there to remind me it's not going to be fair. I always expected that I'd be held accountable for the things I did, not for the things I didn't. So that picture let me know every day, Bob, this is not going to be a fair fight.
Right? I mean, 15 years from the swearing in as the Morris County Prosecutor, and look at us now.
Yeah.
Right. This is the Bianchi Law Group. We have attorney number 6 starting on July 1. We have these ventures that we're going to be expanding. Yeah. New office we're going to be moving into. We are literally developing a new studio that we are so excited about. Right. And so many experiences. But looking back, Bob, 15 years from the day we have up at the screen, what are the main takeaways? What are the highlights? What comes to your mind when you look at this picture?
I look at this picture and see something that probably shouldn't have happened if I didn't stick with it, if I didn't deal with the years of toil. Not only I would have gotten the skill set. That was always there. But politically, to get to that place where Judge Falcone, may I add, who was a mentor of mine as a young person, was a Morris County judge at the time, God bless his soul, and to have my father and Judge Falcone standing there after all the politics and all the ins and outs and the blocking and the whatever, the takeaway from it is that never let up on your dream. I mean, I did leave, and sometimes you have to, maybe you may not get it, you may not achieve it, but at least fight for it. And I kind of look at it like God said, when you give up what it is that you desire, I'll give it to you. I know that sounds, people say it's hokey and what a coincidence. You moved to Morris County, became the prosecutor. I don't look at it like a coincidence. I look at it as a great day, and it informed the rest of my life. So I'm very proud that I had such a team behind me to get there, and a team like you and the others that made that administration a success.
It's like Steve Jobs said, can't connect the dots looking forward. You could only connect them looking backward. So you have to trust that the dots will somehow connect in your future. You have to trust in something, your gut, destiny, life, karma, whatever.
Luck, happenstance. We talk about this all the time. You make the right relationships with people. You do honorable, decent things. You don't strike foul blows. You strike hard, but fair blows with people. I mean, you're a lawyer. You got to get in. You got to mix it up.
Yeah.
You do things in an honest way, a decent way. You may not win something like that because there is an element of luck, and you need an incredible amount of humility in that position. You had a power over people's lives, and this was something that was very real to me. And having been a defense attorney was very important. And I would, every day before sentencing day on Fridays, be in church before that, kneeling, praying that we as prosecutors got it right, that my assistant prosecutors weren't lazy, that they had looked at the file, that they had looked at the mitigating circumstances for the defendant, that they had looked at justice for the victim, that they balanced these things out and just didn't throw numbers against the wall, because justice and coming to the conclusion of what justice is very sticky and very one person's sense of justice can be different from another sense of justice. But I recognized the power of the position. So I didn't go around like I'm the powerful Bob Bianchi, prosecutor in Morris County. I actually tried to stay away from, I was always in the back. I didn't want to, sometimes you get pushed forward because you're that person. But that is a very, very important thing. I know that I got there out of sheer luck and a lot of people that helped me out and being in the right place at the right time. I had no delusions that I quote unquote was owed it or earned it.
Sure. And what I'm hearing too, these values that you had as the Morris County prosecutor are essentially what our core values are at the Bianchi Law Group as well. Courage, compassion, and commitment, right?
What a shock.
And here we are.
Here we are. And by the way, I brought you a token. These are, and I want to thank the prosecutor after me, Fred Knapp, gave me my retired Morris County Prosecutor's Office credentials. I'd open that up and show you the badge and the ID, David, but I don't want to get you overwhelmed. Now, it was really great that they gave us this.
It is, and that experience, and the 5-year-old Bob Bianchi in the prosecutor's car.
He's still in here.
Yep. And the phone call from Governor's Council. And the swearing in as the Morris County prosecutor and everything that we went through as in the Morris County prosecutor's office brings us to today. And really, are you excited about what we were putting together here or what?
What we're doing is look, it's crazy. It's off the hook. It's different. I'm so proud of the operations that we put together for our clients. You're right. I'm glad you looped that in. Passion, commitment, courage. These are all values that I like to live by. I do my best to try to do it, and that's what we do here. Like my dad, who was, the greatest inspiration for all this, always used to say, the great thing about being a lawyer, whether it's a prosecutor, whether it's a defense lawyer, defense attorney, or any law for that matter, is that you have the opportunity to make somebody breathe easier. Yeah. You have to settle some pain in that particular person. Yep. And I'm proud that not only do we do that as a philosophy, but we're pretty hardcore in terms of making sure we fight for our clients. That fight's always been in my dad. It's always been in me. It's in you.
Without a doubt. And bringing in former prosecutors too, that have cut their teeth on the state side, building this group, building this team of former prosecutors. And we say it all the time. We have this morning huddle where we have different experience levels from different parts with different experiences and feedback, all participating in discussions about our clients' cases, and led by Bob Bianchi, former head county prosecutor. And I know that when we talk about looking forward, looking back, looking at those dots, I guess the screen, what's on this screen right here is probably one of the most important dots that we have here at the Bianchi Law Group moving forward, is because the experiences that we had in that office with you as the Morris County prosecutor really positions us to help people on the defense side, help more people as we expand and scale, right? We're having a good time doing it too.
Absolutely. It takes two sides to have justice. It takes two sides. I say to most prosecutors that if you ever had an opportunity for a career prosecutor to sit and listen to a couple of things that if they could be on the other side, in other words, you'd have a different perspective when you were prosecuting cases. And that's the strength that I think I brought to the job, because I had that other side. But many of our clients were blessed to have them as clients, to help them out and to make sure that they get a fair shot.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah. So congratulations.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
At the Bianchi Law Group, our team of former prosecutors and certified criminal trial attorneys specialize in criminal defense and domestic violence cases. When you need a law firm with courage, compassion, and the commitment to fight for you, call the Bianchi Law Group today.